All right, everyone, welcome to the online Visual FoxPro user group. Tonight we have Claude Fox presenting ActiveVFP for us. Go ahead, Claude.
Okay, so ActiveVFP. This is a community project for FoxPro programmers or anybody really. It basically what it is using FoxPro as a scripting language over ASP.NET. So if you're trying to convince somebody, that to use AFP, well, they're saying, well, why don't we do it in .NET? Really, we are using .NET. A lot of what we do is like the configurations and things like that. It's .NET on a basic level, but all of the programming is done in FoxPro. So what I wanted to do tonight is just, show some interesting things and maybe dispel some misconceptions people have, because I know people have said things that just are not true about AVFP. And the other thing I wanted to say is it's not a me project. This is a community project, so it's not like mine. I put a lot of work into it over the years, but what I've done basically is taken what other people have done and put it together to become something useful. So, hopefully people are going to get involved. If they want this to grow, it's getting good use now. There are a lot of downloads a day, like at least 10 a day. There's like, thousands. It seems like thousands a week of hits, and it's growing. It's not getting smaller. So word is spreading, or Google is helping, or something. But it is seemingly it's popular. So ActiveVFP can be a scripting language like PHP. It can be an MVC environment like Ruby on Rails, Django, ASP.NET MVC. It can be that too. So there's a lot it can do, and it can be just like the other popular web application frameworks. When we create an AVFP page, we're just putting FoxPro code in a script, and we're running it. And we're using DBS, or we can use SQL Server or MySQL, but we're using your favorite programming language to do things for the web. We can also do MVC. We can make it extensionless, like just like Ruby on Rails, just like Django. There's no extensions. We can do the same thing. We create a controller, just like ASP.NET MVC. In that case, we put the main code in the VFP controller class. So, we're doing everything the popular frameworks are doing. So what I wanted to do was just, show the basic things. If you want a high-level overview of ActiveVFP, go to Wikipedia and bring up ActiveVFP, and you'll see a high-level description saying, what it does, just basically what I just said. It can be scripting like this, or it can be, a controller and just a simple PRG, just like this. So it can be either one. And it basically, talks about how it started and what we do. And it's a lot like PHP on the basic level, but we can extend it to do more. And you can extend it if you want to get involved with the project. The project site is activevfp.codeplex.com, and from there you can look at the source code, you can download it, you can look at the documentation. Latest documentation is always there, and most important, you should, if you're interested, you should ask questions on the discussion page. I monitor it, other people monitor it, they help out. Look at the issues. These are things I need help with, the project needs help with. I'm not going to do all of these by myself. I might do some of them. And if nobody's helping out, I'll probably do the easiest ones and just churn out a quick, update, something like that. But if we really want to do things that people want, other people are going to have to get involved. It's simple as that. it's free, it's open source, and what I've tried to concentrate on is performance, making it the fastest way to do FoxPro on the web. And I say it's the fastest because it uses a multi-threaded DLL, MTDLL, to run the FoxPro code. And that's going to be the fastest way to do it, in my opinion. Other people may have other opinions, but on this page, I explain why I think that's true and, why you should use it. Let me show a little bit of code, simple scripting language with FoxPro. This is a script. It basically is just a SQL query. It could be a lot more than this, but this returns JSON data back to the caller, and it's a simple FoxPro script. All FoxPro code can be a lot more elaborate. You can have something like this one, the default page has a lot, but what you'll see the FoxPro code within these delimiters. This is a code block like this, and this can be a regular little, pretty much a PRG by itself, or you'll see just FoxPro substitution statement. If you're just substituting a FoxPro variable, and you'll use this equal sign and the delimiters, and we're running FoxPro code just within here. So either way, you'll be doing scripting in that way. So if we wanted to look at a controller, we set them all up in the controllers directory. And a controller separates your code from your markup a lot better. So put your application code in the controller class. This one's called customers. And what we'll do is do all of our application logic in here, or call out to other, your own libraries, your own classes, and return it to just a AVFP view. In this case, we're using the .avfp files as views. So what that means is we're doing minimal FoxPro coding in the view, and most of our app logic is in the controller class. So that's how we're doing MVC. We're using the extensionless stuff in that way. And let me just show these in action. So I've got the demo set. This is on GoDaddy, and we can look at these examples, and it will show the code, and this will show the code as well. It will show how we produce this. This is our code. We basically do another SQL statement. We set up some parameters, and then we call out, and we create a little loop that displays our records. And that's let's see the simple one. The simple one is the first one, and that one I call out to an outside function library called Pages, and I call that function, and I let that do the creation of the grid, and then I just display it at the end with this, and it results in that. And it also has paging and things like that. Now, the MVC stuff is in here, and let's look at that code. That's what we were just looking at before. That code produces this. So those are the two different ways of doing it. Going forward, I would use, of course, the MVC stuff, because you're going to be well, really, it's up to you, because coding everything in a .avfp file like PHP is extremely easy. So some people are actually the last project I did, that's what I used. Now, the problem is if you're doing a lot of code in a script, it gets sort of, long, and it's mixed up with the HTML, and it's hard to read. So honestly, I would probably push for going to the MVC type controllers, put all the app logic in a controller, and just use the .avfp files as views, and you'll probably make out a lot better in the long run. Let's go ahead and show just how easy it is to set up ActiveVFP. That's one of the things that we've made extremely easy to do. If we now, the installer is basically for any place where you have a command line and you can execute something. So if you're lucky enough to have a host where you have a command line, maybe you're paying a little bit more for a virtual host, or maybe you're going the full route and co-locating, whatever. You would go ahead and upload the installer and just go ahead and execute the installer, and that'd probably be the easiest thing. It'll just ask you for where you want to install it and what the virtual directory is, and then it will install it. If you're doing it locally, you also want to do that. If you're doing it at a cheap host like GoDaddy, where you don't have a command line, you're probably going to want to use a zip file. And the zip file is just like an X copy over to the web host, and once it's copied, it's ready to go. You can call it as a web application, and I'll show that too, and we do that in GoDaddy. Most cheap web hosts, $5 or less, that's what you'd use, the zip file. Let me go ahead and download this, and hopefully it will install right on. Usually it takes 2 minutes, and then it pops up the demo, so there's not a lot to the installation. And then you have the code, and then you just change the code, save it, and it runs. There's no compiling of anything. It compiles on the fly. Everything does. Even your PRGs, whatever you're calling, they all can compile on the fly. So let's open this. Okay. It gives you a little warning saying you have to have Vista or higher. Now, this is a little misleading because you can install IIS Express, and you can also get AVFP 6.03 to work with that. It's not as smooth right now. The next version should hopefully make it smoother with IIS Express. IIS Express can run on XP and other things, but the smoothest systems to have it run with are IIS 7, which is Vista, or Windows 7. Most of the web hosts are at least that high. Windows 2003 Server, the previous version may work better with that, probably, or IIS Express. It's just that IIS changed so much from Windows 2003 Server to the next version of IIS that it was too hard to go back and program around that. And it's over 10 years old, so I didn't really figure it was worth it. You have to have ASP.NET and ASP enabled. You can do that from the control panel, install programs, turn Windows features on, etc. So if you don't have these things, you cancel it and just go ahead and install them. It's fairly easy to do this from the turning Windows features on, and that includes Windows professional versions and the server versions. For the home versions, you have to install IIS Express, and it will work with that. It'll work smoother in the future when we do a few things, but it will work, and it will work today with IIS Express. Okay, so let's say okay. It already exists. Okay. because I did a previous install. Let me cancel this and get rid of that so we can start from scratch. This one. This normally it cleans it up. I don't know why it didn't that time. We'll get rid of it. And now we'll do this again. Yes. Okay. It creates a temporary folder where it copies it. I'm going to say, let's see. You can put a drive or you can put nothing in. It will default to C. I'm just going to say OFUG demo. It will copy it to OFUG demo and it should have cleared out and deleted the original one it copied to. Then I'll say OFUG demo for the virtual, and this is the basic thing you need to understand when you're installing. You need to copy it over, create a virtual directory. That's it. There's not much more you need to do, and it'll actually be the same thing on GoDaddy. I'll show that in a second. Once you've got those two things, the rest of it will normally take care of itself. Let's see if it all goes smoothly here. Okay, so it tells you, let's see, OFUG demo is where the files are. Virtual directory is OFUG demo. Okay, so let's hope that the demo comes up. It starts Internet Explorer. And it works. So that's how easy it is. It takes like 2 minutes to do it. You've got a working AVFP directory in there. You can modify the code. You can, create brand new ones. You can create a new .avfp file. It's going to work right away. You put FoxPro code in there, does some simple things. It's going to work right away. That's how simple it is to install this. Most of the things work when you install it like this. Some things don't because they require a little bit more configuration. I don't know what happened there. Oh, because IE doesn't like our jQuery mobile. That's why it jumped out of there. It usually brings up the main, it doesn't even look good on IE. The jQuery mobile is supposed to be run from a smartphone, or it looks fine in Firefox or Chrome, and it works fine. It just doesn't work in IE too well, and you're not going to run it in IE anyway. So let's see if the other one works. Okay. Some of them require configuration, like the PDF will require a PDF server. And you have to set up your configuration for SQL Server if you're using that. This will probably work right away. Yeah. But most of the basic ones work, and the other ones will require some configuration that you would just look up in the docs. It's fairly simple. Let's see. Ajax, you put in a zip code, brings it up, or things like that. But this is really ready to go, and even the MVC stuff is ready. Let's see, return JSON. It returned it. It wants to know if I want to save it. And so all that works. Now let's do the same thing, and let's do it on GoDaddy. It's going to be similar, not exactly the same, but this is, but it's going to work just fine and be just as simple, pretty much. So let's go to GoDaddy. I'm going to sign on. And this is going to be the regular GoDaddy shared host. You can get it as low as, I've seen it as low as $1.99 a month. on. Okay. Let's say you've signed up for an account. You've gotten the regular, oh, it was $1 a month. You've gotten the regular GoDaddy shared hosting. I think they also call it 4GH. And you want to set up ActiveVFP with it. You sign on, you go to Hosting and Servers. You go to Manage Now. Okay. You go to whatever you named your site. In this case, it's going to be this one for me. This is regular economy web hosting. You say launch. It goes into the hosting manager, and there are two areas we're going to be working with: file manager and IIS management. First thing we want is that zip file. So let's go back to the project site and download this zip file. If you're working with a web host, you want to work, if you're working with the cheaper web host, normally you don't have a command line. They won't let you execute anything on there. So you'll just need to copy over the zip file or the content of the zip file to the web host. Once we have it, let's download it. Now we'll go back to GoDaddy, and we will, let me get my notes. First thing we're going to do is go into IIS management. Okay, I'm going to create new. And what this is basically doing, this is our creation of a virtual directory. So we'll call it test2. Okay, I'll check all of these, and it will create my new one. Pending setup. Now, all this, it's important that if you're given a choice, I think you can modify this. The ASP.NET runtime, you want to use the latest one. I think it may default to this, but you want to use the latest ASP.NET 4.5. If you use 2, it's not going to work. We had all sorts of problems using ASP.NET 2. Let's go back into here. It's pending setup. When this is done, we'll be ready to go. What else do we need? Let's see. Okay, we can upload. Let's go to the file manager, which was the other section we need to work with. Okay, we're here in the file manager. Let's go ahead and upload the file that we downloaded. Zip file, 673 zip. Open that. I don't think it's there. Okay, upload it. Hopefully by the time it's uploaded, our virtual directory will be finished. And this is basically 5 steps. I think for the old version we had 10 steps, and now we have 5 steps. And I'm going to update the documentation for the latest version for use on GoDaddy, but it's actually getting simpler, not harder. Okay, so that's finished. Let's go back to IIS Manager. that's done, pending setup. Hopefully it's not going to take forever. But the idea is when that's done, it's going to create the directory here. I did it before, and I created test1 and did the same thing. It's when it creates the virtual directory of test2, it will also create this physical directory. What we're going to do is take our file that we uploaded and unarchive it to whichever directory we created. Once we do that, we're almost ready to actually run it. And there's only a few more things to do after that, but it's just this simple. And you should, if you're using GoDaddy, you should take advantage of these things. You can actually edit the files here and do all sorts of things. Let's see, right in this file manager. You can go in here and you can edit. So a lot of people I noticed were doing all this offline and uploading things and going back and forth. There's no need to really do that. You can do it right in the file manager and save it, and it will work right away. There's no compiling. All that's done automatically. So let's see. Close without saving. Is it done yet? Pending setup, pending setup. If this doesn't finish in like a minute, we'll just go ahead and look at what I did with the test1. Basically what I did, I took the zip file and I unarchived it to test1. It's basically an Xcopy. I Xcopied it to test1. And basically I brought up the site right away. It's that simple. Let's see. Setup. I notice sometimes it can get slow in the evening on GoDaddy. Everything is working, but things are a little bit slower. It was a lot faster earlier in the day. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, so what I did, I unarchived, I went to the root directory, I chose this file, I unarchived it. Well, in that case it was this one, but it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. I unarchive it, I browse. In that case I chose test1, and I said okay, and it put all those files into test1. Test1 is now a complete ActiveVFP directory. It has everything it needs to run on GoDaddy. For this version, there is one thing I had to do for this version because I basically found out how to run the latest version of ActiveVFP on the regular version of GoDaddy, and that is it has to run in full trust. Before, using ASP.NET 2.0, we could not tell it to go to full trust. In 4.0, we can. So what that means is that we go into web config, we edit it, and for the next version, I'll put this in the default web config so you won't have to worry about it. For 6.03, you simply have to put under system.web trust level equals full. Once you do that, it's going to work. And I'll bring it up and show you. Let's see. This is called roots mine.com. And what did I call it? I called it test 1. And we use default.avfp. And that should work, I believe. Yeah. So that's it on GoDaddy. That's what we just looked at. It works just like everything else. The performance on the latest GoDaddy site is much better than it was with that was working before. Wonder why that's not going now. It's much better than it was with 2.0. And 2.0, at times it would lag. I've tested it a lot with this version, and everything is working great pretty much. Here's the mobile site. So it works with pretty much the cheapest and most popular web host out there, GoDaddy. So I think I was excited when I saw that because I was afraid we'd always have to run in the old version of GoDaddy where you have to have special, basically, they weren't going to sell that old version anymore anyway. So it kind of forced my hand to make this work with the latest version. And when I saw it would work with, and you could put in full trust, I knew it probably was going to work, and it does. It works great. And this was working before, and I don't know why it's not working now. But I will check it out. Let's see if it finally created it. If it didn't, we'll just move on. But it basically is a 5-step process for GoDaddy. It's extremely simple. It took me like probably less than 5 minutes to set this up earlier today. If this is done now, I'll do this one too. If it's not, I'll just move on. It's still pending setup, so we'll just move on. But it's basically the same thing. You're creating a virtual directory. You're copying over the files. Everything self-registers. You don't have to worry about registration. You don't have to worry about compiling. It does that. All of this automatically, which is a real, just like PHP. I mean, you don't have to worry about the stuff there. You don't have to worry about starting a server. You don't have to worry about, making sure they're up. That it's very reliable, never goes down, and it's very fast. So this is what I always wanted when I was using FoxPro. I want a framework like all the popular frameworks, but I want to use FoxPro. And I don't want to have to do special things to work around the fact that it is FoxPro. I want to just use FoxPro's scripting language. And I think we've accomplished that for the most part with AVFP. So let's move on. Okay, recently I did a conversion from a desktop application to a web application that is going to run in mostly Android devices. And it basically is managing drivers who are delivering things, picking things up. They have to check in, check out. And the main thing was getting a signature, which was proving problematic to do in the desktop version. So basically, let me show you a slimmed down version of the desktop application. we stripped this down just to get the basic functionality of it. And let me see. You have to sign on. You get a scan. It's basically an Android device that does the scanning with the Android device, puts it in here. You have to choose a route. You have to choose a location. You choose the driver, and you scan it. It puts the tag in, and then you pick another one. And then you save it. But that was the basic functionality of the desktop version. So what we did was take that and put it into a web application. Let's see, where is it? And basically, this is the default.avfp page. We're doing the same thing, and he's bringing this up in a, the driver is bringing this up in an Android device. And let's see, sign on. And we're basically recreating that page, but with HTML. I'm also using Bootstrap to make it look a little bit nicer. Still pretty plain. But it basically does the same thing. We have pull downs. It's automatically populating most of the things here. Let's pick something where I can show you where and you're choosing the pets to remove. This is what the drivers are picking up. It's basically picking up pets who passed away, and they're taking them to the vets, and they're taking them to a place where they're cremated and also picked up. It's an interesting application. But basically, when they're scanned, you either manually enter it in or you scan it and it puts it in, or you can click it here and it will go through the routine that's part of this, that was also part of the desktop application, and it marks it as being a pet to remove. Then we go and we save it. It's listed here, and we go ahead and sign out, and we save the signature, and then you can basically start all over again and do that. Each driver will have this. It's multi-user, and it's a way to accomplish this with Android. The client had tried to do this with the emulation, like the desktop emulation of the desktop version of FoxPro. It would not work because the signature program wouldn't work, but it works perfectly with the web version. So it was another reason to go to the web. So if we look at, let's see, if we look at the code for this, I can show you the main. It was just, and this is basically 3 files. With the login, we have the scan file. This is interesting. This is one place where if you look at it, you see all the code and you see all the logic, and it's all in the AVFP script page. And this works, and it works well, and it was simple to put it all on the page. But you're mixing it in with the HTML code and the markup, and that may not be a good idea for something as complicated as this. So in retrospect, it may have made more sense to put this in a controller and use the MVC feature instead of this. It would have separated the code from the markup a little bit better. But this works good, and it's fast, and some people are just going to prefer to do it this way. So as a matter of fact, that I prefer to do it this way when I got started. I think I started by thinking, I'll do it this way just as a prototype, then I'll go back. But how things go, they just time was of the essence, and it worked, and we just left it in here. but the code is here. We're basically emulating what that form does, and we're also using one of the classes, a visual class called form methods that the original desktop application used. What I did was just make that into a PRG class, same name, and I call it here, and I call those methods, because I didn't want to put the methods in this page. I called the external class, and this is how you do it. You can either call an external library, you can call an external class, you can change the code in those classes, and it will automatically compile it using compile if new if it has changed. So it will not lock that. It will not prevent you from changing it on the fly. And this is how we do that. And we use those methods in the remainder of the application. So we're using the DBFs. We're using the existing DBFs. So most of this code, especially the SQL, is all pulled out of the desktop version and all put into here. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It all works. It works fast and multi-user and over the web, and also even mobile devices.
Claude,
and this one was actually, yes.
Can we take a look at that program that you were bringing in with the new object?
You mean the external class?
Yeah.
That I'm calling? The form methods?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Not sure if I'm following that.
Best friend software, and it's the place, it's in programs, form methods. It compiles this on the fly. And basically, this was a VCX, and I took the methods and I put it in a PRG. And it's the same exact stuff. And I put the methods in here from the VCX, and it's basically the same idea. Now, calling from a VCX, I haven't played with that. This is the way I do it. It's the way I know how to do it. Is it possible to call it directly from the VCX? I haven't even played with that. So if somebody was willing to, play with that and try to get that to work, I'm not sure it works. If I haven't been inclined to look at it, I may have heard something or seen something where it won't work, but I'm not sure. But this is the way I did it. I took those methods out, put it in a simple PRG. I can change this on the fly, and it's going to compile it on the fly without me having to worry about it. So that all works great.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. So it's the same idea, same format. All the PRGs are in here. We have functions. We have library files, the AFP utilities. We have the compile if new. Little things like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Rue was asking about the color syntax. I think you were just bringing the PRG up in a text editor, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Notepad, actually. I just click it on, and
so
I'm using Notepad here. You can probably do much. If you want color coding syntax, you bring it up in FoxPro. That's fine. I mean, I just do this because it's simple and, it's fast. And, if you can unit test these. You don't have to do it in a web environment. That's the nice thing. PHP, everything is web, so it's hard to have external libraries that aren't being used in a web context. FoxPro, it's a regular programming language. You don't have to have the web to unit test these things and do them within FoxPro itself. So you can, bring these up, test them in FoxPro. The idea is, though, that you don't have to have FoxPro to use AVFP. It's not required. It runs by itself because we're including the multi-threaded runtime with every copy of AVFP. So you never have to have a copy of the FoxPro IDE. It's helpful if you have it because it's going to do the color coding. It's going to do, your syntax checking, so on and so forth. So yeah, if you have it and you're used to it, that's probably the way to go. to do a quick and dirty Notepad, whatever editor you like, really. I used to use, the things like Microsoft Expression and the other one, I forget the name of it right now. The visual editors were nice because you could design a form and it was WYSIWYG. You could look at the form, and this is what you're going to get when you, and just put the FoxPro code in there. And I've kind of moved away from that, although it still is nice. And we're using more things like Twitter Bootstrap and stuff like that, and just, I don't know, CSS more. And I'm not sure if WYSIWYG is still the way to go for some of these. It might be. I am open to different ways of doing it. But basically, that is taking a desktop application and web enabling it. Fairly straightforward. You just have to get used to some things that you're doing in a web context. There are certain things you have to know when you're programming for the web, and the main things, pretty simple. You have to know how to use OSession. You have the session object. You have to know how to use the response object, and most of all, probably you have to learn how to use the request object. So, because when you submit forms, when you submit URLs, you're using the request object to pull those things into your FoxPro application. These are built-in objects that are extremely fast, and actually they are the same original objects, session, response, request, that are used in classic ASP. What we're doing, we're pulling them in and making them available transparently in FoxPro. So that's how we're doing this. So it's fast. We're not gonna get errors with it. It's proven, and I think it's just a wonderful way to use these objects within regular FoxPro. If you learn those three objects, you're going to be well on your way to be able to program any sort of web application, because most of it is done that in those. There are more than that, and they should all be available in AVFP. If you want to know what they are, you can look at the objects in any classic ASP book or online or whatever. It's basically the same thing. ASP.NET will have similar ones, and they will work the same way. And so I think we have the best of all worlds here. We're using things that were created for the web, like the objects from within classic ASP, and we're using them within a real database programming environment, and it works fantastic. I mean, I think it all has come together great, and it all works well. Can it be improved? Absolutely. And I'm looking for the community to help with improvements, to contribute, to discuss, things like that, make it a better product. Victor Espina created the MVC version. He did it for RESTful APIs. He did all of that, and he contributed it, and it works fantastic. And it is a great contribution that makes this so much more useful that I can create something that looks like an ASP.NET MVC application and actually performs the same way, but I'm doing it all in FoxPro. And those are the types of contributions that just make this a heck of a lot better and useful for everybody. Nobody cares if the back end, unless they're really sticklers, if it runs well and it's using FoxPro and it looks on the URL, like any other MVC application, are they really going to care that it's FoxPro on the back end and they've heard that FoxPro is discontinued, so on and so forth? I don't think anybody really cares. If you're doing a mobile application, this is going to return JSON and any information, XML, whatever you want, as fast as anything out there. And nobody's going to care that you're using something that Microsoft says that they killed. ActiveVFP using FoxPro on the web is going to continue. It's not going anyplace. They cannot get rid of the runtime even if they wanted to. So this is always going to work. I mean, unless they get rid of a 32-bit programming, believe me, they're not going to get rid of it. It's going to work because things like PHP are 32-bit, and they're probably not going to 64-bit because things like PHP run slower as 64-bit. The big improvements you get with 64-bit are being able to run huge, massive databases and running those efficiently. You don't really get it with code. This is my opinion, but it's based on reading and learning about this. So I think it's true. The last thing I wanted to show tonight was how easy it is to work with the actual source code for basic ActiveVFP. It's not hard at all. I think it's a misconception that some people have that we're doing everything on the back end with C# or something. There's only a tiny bit that was done with C#, and we will never need to look at that at all, and that's the handler. The handler code is in C#, and that basically is what lets us run FoxPro. And it's complicated. It looks complicated. It is complicated. It's C#. This basically lets us run FoxPro over ASP.NET. That's all you need to know. You never have to worry about it. You never have to program in it. What you're going to do if you're working with the source code, first of all, you're going to download it. You can download it here, or you can download it from here, AVFP 6.3 source only. And basically, you have it's like two sides to the coin. You have what you've downloaded as the live version, which is what you program in. That's the regular download, like AFP 6.03. This is what you run. You never have to compile anything in that. It's all just scripting or automatically compiling. Now, if you want to make a change to the source because you want to go to, let's say you want to go to, I don't know, something where how the request object works, or modify it. One thing I saw that I will change and recompile for the next version is in the REST helper. I noticed that we are not using, we're using a custom class for the REST helper class. In my opinion, we should be using a session class because the session classes are better, are more suitable for web applications because they have a lot of built-in error checking, and also the settings for using tables, the timeouts and things like that. That's already in the session object. So if we can define our class REST helper as session, I think that will be an improvement. The other thing I'd like to add is an error method so that we're getting good errors, and if there is an error, it will die gracefully and not, potentially hurt the whole server. That is not in here, and this is because it was brand new, the REST helper in the last version. So what we'll do is this. We have downloaded and installed the live version of, what do we call it? We call it OFUG demo. Let's find it. OFUG demo. This is the live version. If we're going to create a new ActiveVFP.dll, modify the base stuff that you wouldn't normally touch, but you've looked at the source and you see something that you can make an improvement, you can fix something, even fixing something, simple things, anything. This is how you do it. You have your live version, now you want to get the source. The source is the other side of the coin to the live version. What you want to do is download it, and what you're going to do is download this source into the live the live ActiveVFP directory. So this is what we'll do. Let me do this real quick. Okay, so what I've done, I've downloaded the source and I've extracted the source files into the live directory. Now I should be able to bring up the project for ActiveVFP, and we're not talking about a lot of files here. We're talking about a handful of files to create a new ActiveVFP.dll and add maybe some base functionality. So let's go in here, OFUG demo. Basically what I downloaded was the project files. Okay, that came up fine. And the other PRG files, like the ActiveVFP, the main program, and has most of the methods for ActiveVFP, the base methods, the HTML class, the things that evaluate and output the HTML, the things that let you upload files. Basically all the things that you see in the demo, a lot of the base functionality, the SQL class, the session class, the charting, all that. Those things are, even the multi-threading, there's some in here, multi-threaded background tasks. It's all in the ActiveVFP.prg, which is only in the source. So if you want to look at that, if you want to add something, if you want to fix something, if you want to debug it, other things like code block we're using, DCH, JSON we're using for the RESTful servers, REST helper. This is what we want to change, and this is what we want to modify. So what I want to do is go here, and I want to say define class REST helper as session. Okay, and I want to go down here, and I want to, let's see, I want to add this error handler so that we can, some people were playing with it and they were creating bad errors, and it was taking down the whole system. So this needs to go in there as another procedure. Okay. As another method. So that compiles no problem. We've made our change. This is going to be an improvement. And now I'm going to create a multi-threaded COM server. And I'm going to replace ActiveVFP.dll. Let me think. Do I need to? Okay, here is an issue. Let's see if it works. It may not work. Access, okay. The ActiveVFP.dll is locked in memory because that's not something that we're going to change all the time. So we're getting the benefit of faster performance because it's in memory. When we're going to change it, this is one time where you'll have to restart server IS to unlock it, something like that. IS reset. So the only time you ever have to, this is the only time you should ever have to reset IIS is when you're working with the ActiveVFP source, the base source. Once that's done, now it should work. I should have a new ActiveVFP.dll, and let's see, why would it not work? Oh, you know why? Because to compile on this, I have to run FoxPro as administrator. Okay, let's go back. Our change should still be in there. Where was it? That was in the REST helper. The error, yes, it's all in there. Now I'll build the ActiveVFP.dll. It should work this time. Replace it. Okay. We have our new feature. Our new feature should be a better version of the RESTful server that will help us to give an error message and end gracefully because we're using COM return error than it is right now. Because if you do something like set procedure to a library and you don't say additive, it's going to do a lot of weird things and it's not going to end gracefully. And hopefully this will help if the programmer is doing things and doesn't know how to program for the web within ActiveVFP. Hopefully they'll be able to do things that they don't know yet, and it's not going to be bad results because of this change. So now we should. Let's see, that's the old one. We should just be able to run this now, and it should work. Where was I? Oh, this is all, well, it's just local host. Oh, is it on there someplace? No, local host, OFUG, demo. And it works. That's using the new ActiveVFP.dll. It was just that simple to make a change and make an improvement to the base ActiveVFP. Does this work? Okay. So it did something. I still have to debug it. It did something it doesn't like. Something I did as far as my list that worked before, but because of what I did, it's not showing the list. But it is working for returning JSON. It is working for everything else. So I'd have to debug that and see why it's not returning the list when it was doing it before. But that's something I'll do before the next version is released. And hopefully I've shown how easy it is to to change the source, the base source for ActiveVFP. You're only talking about a handful of files. It's all FoxPro. You add new features you don't want to mess with in the normal course of developing an application, and you just compile it. You recompile the ActiveVFP.dll, and there you have it. You can do anything you want. So to add features, to fix features, you just dive in there, download the source, dive in there, make changes, improvements, fixes. If you want ActiveVFP to continue and get better and better, it's an extremely popular project. I mean, I get at least 10 downloads a day, sometimes 20. I don't know why it varies so much. Lots of traffic. People are using it. And if we want to make it better, I can't be the only one, or I can't be the only one of two or three, or two or three are only doing it. It should be more than that. It should be something like 10 to 20 people should be a part of this and making it, a better project and better features. And if you want to see what features are needed, look at the issues on the project page under issues. We have all sorts of things that, whatever you're interested in. A lot of these are simple. I'm just going to do it before the next version comes out. Putting in the trust level in the web config, so that everything just installs right away like at GoDaddy. You don't have to make that manual change. That's a big one, FoxPress CMS. I see FoxPro as a fantastic programming environment for CMS, like WordPress. If you look at the installation for WordPress, you have to install PHP, you have to install MySQL, you have to make manual configurations. I'm positive you can use AVFP the setup will be 100% easier. Now, does it have all the plugins and all the, the work behind PHP as far as themes and things? No, it doesn't. But the basic things are there for a database within FoxPro to create a fantastic CMS. I put this in here because I would like to see this in the future sometime. Will it happen? Well, only if other people get involved, things like that. So that's a big one. Other ones are little ones. This one will get done. Update the hosting docs. That will get done. And feel free to add your own in here. If you want to see something, people should be looking at these. People should be voting for these. The debugging worked in the older version of AVFP. There's a little issue with the handler that, I think we just need to rethink it. The FoxPro debugger probably should work with the latest version, but it has to be looked at. It has to be played with. IIS Express should work smoother than it does right now. It works, but you don't have the regular IIS environment variables, so the demo doesn't work quite like it should. But it works, but you kind of have to work around that. Other little errors with the demos have to be fixed. A lot of these are little, and they're going to be fixed by the next version. So that's basically it, and I hope everybody kind of learned something or kind of got some insight into the whole project. And for the people who came out or the people who are going to view this in the future, get on the ActiveVFP project page and help out. Thanks to everybody.
Thanks, Claude. Do you have time for a couple questions?
Sure.
Can you touch on that controlling program idea? That's a new one for me.
The controller, like MVC? Is MVC new to you too, or you're familiar with that?
No, that's new.
Model view controller. Okay, so that's like Ruby on Rails is like that. ASP.MVC. You've probably heard of that, right? ASP.MVC.
Yes.
Where you put your code in the controllers, and you have the Razor views where you put minimal code in your views, and you basically all of your application logic is in a controller class, and that's what we're doing here. So when we do that, let's see. This is working. So when we do that, we're basically using a URL that looks like this. We're just putting customers there, and AVFP knows that whatever we put in this area is going to be the controller. So it will look for a controller class that has that is defined as a REST controller, and it will perform these default methods based on what you're doing. This is new with the last release, so this is an area where people get involved with it. They can add their own ideas. They can, it's still evolving, so it's ripe for getting involved with. When I go to a record, I set up the URL to look like this and just put the record number after it. When I listed this, I appended the record number to the URL for each of these records. And I set up, and this is standard for ASP.NET MVC. The URLs are going to look just like this for Ruby on Rails, for Django, all those. Same thing, and then now that's RESTful, what do they call it, conventions. You set up the URL like that, and you set it up that way. You can also add custom methods. It's more of a MVC field, and this one here is called, I'm still using the customer controller, but this is my custom method, which is hello world. I have no extension. This is standard for MVC type stuff, and I'm running this little method here called, what is it, hello world, which one, right here. So I just put a little method in here, and in this case, my view is hello.avfp. So then you just look at this as the application logic. This could be anything. It could be 2 pages long. And then my view is hello.avfp, which should have little or no application logic, just enough to display what I've created in my output. So that it's really simple. It's a PRG. This is all FoxPro code. We're creating a class, a controller class, as a REST controller, and we're adding methods. And these methods can call, your custom function libraries, or they can call your business class, and that's how you would create a RESTful application with FoxPro, or an MVC application with FoxPro. And yeah, so that's basically it.
Does this controller then have all of the HTML for the page as well? If we had a more complicated page?
That's the views. So the views have the HTML. Let's look at this. So we'll go back to this. That's the controller. The views, I typically put them in the root directory. So hello.avfp is the view. This has the HTML. It's not much HTML, but it's enough to get this little thing done. So basically, I called my whatever I did on that end, and then in the controller part, it could be your application logic. It could be basically the idea. You want to separate your application logic from your view, and this is the way to do it. Your view will have minimal FoxPro code. It can still have things, basic things like date, things like that. But you don't want to block a code probably. You want to put that block of code in your controller, and at the end of the block of code in your controller, just output everything to your view, which is a .avfp file. And that's a simple one, but let's see, the other, this is also a .avfp view, and we can, which one is this one? This one is, what did I call this? Oh, well, let's look at if we look at the controller, and we look at the view test, I believe it's view test. The more elaborate one is view test. View test is an elaborate view, so it's got a lot more HTML. We're actually looping through the records that it picked in our controller, and we're outputting it in this loop. So all of the selection of the records was done in the controller. This little routine just sets up the grid that is shown, and it also does the paging functionality. That's also done, and yeah, pages is just a function library and a PRG. This is all display stuff. So we're doing all the display stuff in the .avfp view, and we're doing all of the logic, the SQL queries, everything, any external libraries, any function libraries. We're doing all of that in the controller. So this gives us the separation of concerns. The display is in the view, and the application logic is in the controller. Otherwise, we'd do a script, and we'd mix in the application logic into this view, and that's the old way of doing it, which works good for some people, and other people would want to have it, separated out better.
Cool, thanks.
Okay.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Thanks, Claude.
Okay.